Wake Forest. I'm Karen Guy. I'm a Master Gardener in Wake County. And today I'm going to talk to you about what Master Gardeners can do for you. Well, one of the things that we can do for you is help you with plant identification. I'm going to be going through a set of slides telling you about how we work, because I think if you understand our process, then you won't think we're so nosy when we ask you all these questions about your plants. So let's say you inherited a yard full of plants and you would like somebody to help you identify. Well, if you send an email with photographs to mgardner@wakegov.com, that's our email address, we can help you out. But there's some things we'd like you to do when you include that, when you send us that photograph. If you could include something for scale, like if you're doing a close-up, maybe include a dollar bill, a ruler, your hand, a quarter, something like that, so that we can see about the size of the leaves. So we'd like you to do a close-up so that we could see the leaf arrangement. I'm going to talk more about that. But then something further back where we can see the entire plant, so we can see the form. And if you're asking us to help you with identifying pests or diseases, if you could take photos of those pests or the location on the plant where you're seeing damage, and take a few of them and include them in your email, it will help us get started. Otherwise, there's a lot of back and forth for us to diagnose some of these things. Okay, I think I covered everything there. And also confess if you've done something, if you've fertilized, if you've power washed your house with bleach, just go ahead and tell us. We're not going to yell at you. It's okay, it happens all the time. But just the more information that you provide, the better answers we're going to be able to give you. So next I'm going to go through some of our steps. Okay, so here is a trick question though. So take a look at this photograph. We'll get questions from homeowners that say, I'm having a problem with my boxwood. Something's chewing on it. And they'll send us a picture like this. Well, this is actually not a boxwood. This is a Japanese holly. So first of all, we're starting off with the wrong identification. That's why we need you to do a close-up so that we can see that leaf arrangement. And what about this? Is this a holly hedge or is this boxwood? Again, this is a holly hedge, so this is a Japanese holly hedge. So they look very similar to people. A lot of plants look really similar. So we want to get you the right identification of the plant, because otherwise we could be giving you the wrong ID of the disease. So how do we determine what the plant is? Well, in this photograph, we got close-ups of the leaves, and you can see on the boxwood, this one actually has a problem with it, that the leaves are oppositely arranged. So off the main branch there, they're right opposite of each other. And then on the holly, the Japanese holly, they're alternate. So they alternate, they're not directly across and not completely symmetrical. So that's how we tell the difference. That's why we need you to send us pictures like this so that we can ID the plant correctly. And next I'm going to go through our process for diagnostics. This is a little boring, but not to a Master Gardener. These are the kinds of questions that we're going to lead you through when you contact us. And right now our hotline isn't open, so we're going to be doing this via email. So if you could include as much as you could in the initial email, it'll help us get through this process a little bit faster. This book, this is the Extension Master Gardener book, actually has a whole chapter on diagnostics. So if you purchase this or you look it up online, this will kind of help you. So I'm going to be talking a lot to these slides. So I'm going to go through our 10 steps for gathering facts. First, we need to identify the plant. So you're going to take some great photographs for us so that we can give you the proper ID. Next, we're going to describe the problem. What appears to be wrong? What change have you seen in parts of the plant? Is this happening on new growth or old growth? Is there a change in leaf color? Is it the entire leaf, or is it between the veins? Is there tissue damage, or it is in the center of the leaf? We're going to ask you a lot of questions. And then we're going to identify what is normal, because sometimes somebody thinks it's a problem with their plant and it's actually natural behavior. So in this example, you've got pollen-bearing structures on some conifers, so this is normal. This is not a problem. Other problems or other questions we get may be about spore-bearing structures on ferns, those little spores on the back of leaves. Sometimes people think they're an insect. Maybe the corky growth on a sweet gum, leaf drop on magnolias in spring, leaf spots on Japanese akuba, raised lenticels on certain woody plants. So we're going to be able to tell you, well, that's normal on your plant, that's okay, that happens this time of year. In the next couple of steps, we're going to review your cultural practices, and this basically means asking you how are you growing this plant. Don't worry if you're not sure about what you're doing, that's okay. We're going to guide you through this process, and that's why you're giving us a call, because maybe there is a cultural thing that you could remedy. So we'll ask questions that help us identify if there is a problem there. We're going to ask about insects. We're going to ask you if you see mites or caskins, egg casings, frass, silken threads, slime trails, tracks, holes, teeth marks. We're going to ask you a lot of questions here. We're going to ask you where that's found. Is it on the leaves, the stem, the bark, the roots, the top, or the bottom? Do you see mushrooms, conchs, rust, ooze, slime mold, powdery mildew, sooty mold, or smut? You see any of these problems? And you can see in this photograph, this one's pretty obvious what's going on with this plant. But sometimes it's not the case. We're also going to ask you about blight and canker, chlorosis, dieback, and distorted growth, and gall. So this image is a gall. I'll give you a couple of definitions here. This is all in the book in the PDF if you want to read more, but blight is a non-specific term applied to a wide variety of symptoms, usually referred to the rapid death of leaves and other plant parts. Canker is a plant lesion where part of the plant quits growing and the surrounding parts continue to grow. There may be sunken, discolored, dead areas on twigs or branches, usually starting from an injury, wound, or pathogen. So as I start to read through these descriptions, I think you understand why you want to send an email to the Master Gardeners, because it does get kind of complex. There's some more pathogens to talk about here. So we've got leaf drop, mosaic, rot, spot, smut, wilt. Leaf drop is what it seems, leaves fall off of the plant. With rot, you've got soft spoiling or decomposing of stems, crowns, and fruit, often accompanied by strong and unpleasant odors. With mosaic, you have non-uniform foliage coloration with more or less distinct intermingling of normal green and light green and yellowish patches. And spot on the leaf or fruit, it may be dry and colorful, it may have a yellow circle inside the spot, may have small structures inside the spot, may be tan, have water-soaked appearance. So when we describe all of this, when you help us describe all of this, it's going to give us an idea of what's going on with your plant. And 8, we want to determine the distribution of the damage. If the problem is focused on a single plant family, consider theories involving living animals or pathogens. Living organisms have often co-evolved with one particular plant family. If more than one plant family is showing the same symptoms in the same location, then it's likely it's an environmental or non-living problem. Common environmental problems include temperature extremes, drought, soluble salt damage, air pollution, herbicides, and pesticides. And then we want to examine the distribution of damage. Is it the entire plant, only the lower parts, or only the upper parts? Is it progressively less damage if you move up the tree, if it's on a tree? That indicates fungal or bacterial diseases. So all of this information is going to help us do diagnosis and provide you with the best treatment options for your plant. Here's some more things we're going to talk about. Marginal leaf burn, lack of water, too much soluble salts, problem with the transport system, such as the xylem inhabiting bacteria, can be the cause of marginal leaf burn. With vein clearing, specific pesticides and certain viruses can be the cause of that. So, and additionally, here's one that we get a lot, blossom end rot. You see that on tomatoes. We say fruit, tomatoes are fruit. So we're going to ask you a lot of questions to determine what's going on with your plant. Also, Is this spreading or not spreading? If it's not spreading, non-living problems. For example, when lightning strikes, the damage is done all at once and it shows up over a short period of time. If it's a season specific, it's likely a living problem. If it starts small and spreads, then it's likely a living problem. So that means that there's some organism in there doing the damage. We also want to review the timing. When does this happen? What season did this occur? Is it getting worse over time? So we'll ask you those kinds of questions. Or you can include them in your email. And then finally, we're going to help you take action. So here we have, once we're through these 10 items, sometimes it's fewer depending upon how the evidence lines up, you'll get a recommendation for treatment. You'll want to document and review to make sure that it's working as expected. We're kind of doing this over email, so there can be some miscommunication or misinformation. So we want to come back and forth with you to make sure that it was the right treatment, not just say, okay, you're on your own. And in this image, you've got ambrosia beetle, Polyphagus shothole borer. And we're going to tell you that pyrethroids have been found to provide control of attacking adults if applied prior to the closing of the galleries. And we're going to explain what all this means, but basically those holes, before they plug them up, if you treat them, you can have success. So this is one very obvious damage that we can identify pretty quickly if you send us a photo of this. And here is our email address. And thank you so much for listening to me. Definitely reach out to Master Gardeners if you need help with plant ID, if you're having pest or disease issues, or just have any question about gardening whatsoever. We can help you with questions about moles and voles and pretty much anything that touches the garden. So thank you. My name is Karen Guy, and I appreciate your time.